Hi, my name is Frank. It's Friday. That means it's time to kick back, relax, and talk music. Today, we're talking Van Halen and this whole tribute tour thing that's got a lot of gums flapping lately. We're going to talk about what we know and what we don't know yet. Plus, we're checking out some mail, but first, Record of the Week. Since we're talking Van Halen today, I figured an appropriate Record of the Week would be the 1978 Van Halen debut, the self-titled debut on Warner Brothers Records. As you can see here, this is an original promotional copy, which you don't see too often at all. Not only that, this particular version is signed by David Lee Roth back in 1994. This album was sent to me a while ago by my friend Serge in Ohio, so thank you again, Serge. We all know and love this album, right? So many classic tracks on here. Jamie's Crying, Running with the Devil, Ain't Talking About Love. I mean, I can go on. Almost every song on here is absolutely fantastic. And this is a debate I've had with my friends many times in terms of what is the best debut album of all time. And this one has my vote. Van Halen won. This debut went on to sell over 10 million copies in the USA alone. I absolutely love this album. And that's why it is this week's Record of the Week, 1978 self-titled debut from the mighty Van Halen.
Love vinyl? Tell the world with a Channel 33 RPM t-shirt. Check out the Channel 33 RPM store today.
All right, let's talk this Van Halen news that everyone's been talking about. With Van Halen, it's like feast or famine, right? You don't hear anything about these guys for the longest time. And all of a sudden, boom, huge news. So here we go. Ex-Metallica bassist Jason Newsted broke this news this week, saying that 6 months ago, he had been invited to jam with Joe Satriani and Alex Van Halen as part of a possible Van Halen tribute tour. He kind of, he backed out of it ultimately, saying it would be too difficult to fill Eddie's shoes. Here's Jason's quote. "How could you? There's nobody that can top it. So how do you show it honor? I didn't want it to be viewed as a money grab, and then it just kind of all fizzled." Here's the thing, though. It never actually really fizzled. Maybe Jason's participation fizzled, but this is still, there's still stuff going on behind the scenes. After Jason made those comments, Joe Satriani started talking. He confirmed Jason's story and also said that David Lee Roth is involved. Here's a quote from Joe Satriani. He said, "I've been talking with Alex and Dave for about a year about doing something, a tour or something like that. This was going to be a true tribute to Eddie and the Van Halen legacy." Sounds promising so far, right? He goes on to say, "It's very complicated, and all I can really say about it is that if it does happen, I know we'll make it the greatest thing ever for the fans and we'll all celebrate together." All pretty juicy so far, right? But it gets better. But before I get to that, I just want to comment on the participation of Jason Newsted and Joe Satriani. I mean, if there was ever going to be a Van Halen tribute tour or tribute to Eddie and the legacy of the band, I never would have imagined these two particular musicians involved. I mean, Jason Newsted, a metal bassist, right? Played in Metallica for years. But he's no Michael Anthony. I mean, they're both talented in their own ways, but part of Michael Anthony's whole thing is his background vocals, right? And as far as I know, Jason doesn't. Well, he does vocals, but does he sing? I'm not really sure about that. So I was kind of questioning him being involved in the project. And Joe Satriani, obviously an amazing guitarist, one of the best living guitarists around today. But again, his style is very different to Eddie Van Halen's. I mean, even Steve Vai may have been, on paper anyway, a better fit, just because Steve was in David Lee Roth's Eat 'Em and Smile band, and he played, Panama, Jump. He played all Ain't Talking About Love, and I mean, he showed he could do it. I mean, Dweezil Zappa. There's all sorts of guys who, to me, would have been a more natural fit in this project than Joe Satriani. But whatever, I'm not involved, so cool. Joe's on board, and sounds like he's still kind of there. So on top of all this, David Lee Roth issued a statement this week. And at first glance, a lot of people are saying his statement is nonsense, but it really isn't. He drops some serious hints in this statement. Let's check out what Dave said. Okay, he says, "In my mind, Van Halen 4K in the age of COVID is going to require two of us for every position," he says. Satriani and Lukather, Anthony and Newstead, Al or Tommy Lee. Probably the only one who could do my job today would be Pink. Right, so people are looking at this statement going, Dave is out to lunch, man. This means absolutely nothing. But it does. I mean, one, he's kind of confirming that this is going on, right? It's also showing that he still has COVID concerns, right? And I know he had a Las Vegas residency several months back that was canceled because of COVID. So it sounds like COVID is still in the back of Dave's mind and him thinking, this whole situation, if one guy goes down, a whole tour can be canceled or postponed. So that kind of speaks to his comment regarding in the age of COVID. It's going to require 2 of us for every position. Okay, this is interesting. So again, he mentions Joe Satriani, but also Steve Lukather. And Steve was in Toto, but he was also a longtime buddy with Eddie Van Halen. Eddie and Steve were super tight, and he'd be another good fit in this whole project, I think. He mentions Newstead, but he also mentions Anthony. Anthony meaning Michael Anthony. So this is significant because looking into this, David Lee Roth is publicly, in a sense here, reaching out to Michael Anthony, right? Extending that olive branch perhaps to be part of this project. At the very least, Dave is confirming through this statement that he wants Michael Anthony to be part of this. It was kind of funny at the last part. Dave says, probably the only one who could do my job today would be Pink. Well, that's kind of true. I think Pink would be fun to be part of this. I'm assuming Dave's tongue is firmly planted in cheek when he mentions Pink. Nonetheless, kind of intriguing. The other piece to this puzzle, I suppose, is Wolfgang Van Halen, Eddie's son. And maybe this shouldn't come as a surprise, but Wolfgang has, how can I say this, reacted negatively to this whole idea of a tribute. This is what he had to say as captured by rock news site Metal Sludge. Well, when the world is breaking down my door for a week talking about some dumbass reunion that isn't happening and insulting me in the process, I feel the need to clear things up. Just let me suck with my own band and fuck off. Then, after a bunch of hoopla, he deleted that tweet and wrote, deleted it more than it's worth. The childish arguments will continue with or without my input. I truly don't care. Just leave me the f*** out of it. I'll always do right by Pop, and that's all that matters. Then he tweeted one more time, and in fairness, again, people were really giving him a hard time. Anyway, he said, just popping in to say there is no Van Halen without Pop. Okay? Bye. So I gotta say, I was always happy to talk up Wolf in the past, but he's really been coming across as a jerk on the socials these days. I know people give him a hard time, but sometimes it's just best to walk away from that stuff and not react, because in the process it makes Wolf look really bad. Anyway, regardless, Wolf obviously won't be involved in the tribute, or as he calls it, a dumbass reunion, which it's not really, but whatever. Of course, there are still all sorts of outstanding questions, like Dave just recently announced he's retired. He hinted he has health problems. So how does that square up with this potential Van Halen thing? I don't know. Again, the whole Michael Anthony question and the whole question of Sammy Hagar, right? Like half of Van Halen's legacy, whether some people like to admit it or not, really does revolve around Sammy. And in Dave's statement, he says you need 2 of us at every position, but he doesn't mention Sammy. He mentions himself and Pink. So how would that work? And if Sammy would jump at an opportunity like this, but would Dave want to be part of that? And how would Dave and Sammy get along, right? They toured together a couple of decades ago, and that didn't go very well. So these are all unanswered questions and things we kind of have to stay tuned for to see what happens. But again, I find this whole idea very intriguing, and I look forward to hearing or seeing what happens next. All right, let's do the mail. This is something that actually came in the mail here a couple months ago. And at the time I showed it to you and I said I would come back and talk more about it. This is a book on 8 tracks written by Tim Derling. Tim Derling is a viewer of this channel, and he also has his own channel called Tim's Vinyl Confessions. The foreword in this book is by renowned rock journalist Martin Popoff. And I also want to point out that the book design was done by Matt Phillips, who is also a viewer of this channel. And that's the first thing that struck me about this book, is how gorgeous it is. I mean, like, look inside here. Matt did such a fantastic job, and countless hours were obviously spent putting this book together. So I have read this now from cover to cover, and again, I want to come back and tell you a bit about it. It's called Unspooled, as I said, and obviously it's focused on 8 tracks, and mostly it's focused on 8 tracks released in the 1980s, and particularly those record club exclusive 8 tracks that continue to be produced well into the mid-80s, which I was not aware about. And also talks about sort of Tim's journey through the 8-track world and growing up collecting them. Again, what I found most interesting was some of that those RCO 8-track releases, record club only. There were some crazy ones here that I wasn't aware of. I never realized there's a version of Motley Crue Shout the Devil on 8-track, or Rat, Invasion of Your Privacy, Rush, Power Windows, Scorpions, Worldwide Live. I mean, those are from 85. And again, he just lists a lot of those 8 tracks that many of us, myself included, never knew existed. AC/DC, Who Made Who? Who knew that was ever on 8-track, right? What else does he have on here? Billy Idol, Whiplash Smile. I don't know. I just find it all so interesting that this was all still going on while many of us have forgotten about this format. So if you're interested in learning more about this book, I leave Tim's email address right here. Feel free to reach out to him. Thanks again, Tim, for sending this over. I dug it. It was a great read. And great job, Tim, you did on this, as well as Matt. This is Unspooled by Tim Derling, an adventure in 8 tracks. Cheers, guys. All right, guys, thank you for watching. If you dug today's episode, I would appreciate a quick thumbs up. I'll see you again on Sunday. Until then, keep on spinning.